Welcome to the Carriker Chronicles, the People Show. Checking the pulse of Husker Nation, brought to you by DPS Concrete Construction. Check them out at dpsconstruction.net. And as always, check out carrikerchronicles.com as well. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, no, this shirt is not about politics. Pause for effect. And proceed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, well, do me this favor. Get out and vote. Don't be those folks who just sit on your hands and complain about what does or doesn't happen if you don't at least get out and vote. But just a warning, I'm a little bit salty today. Normally, by the time Sunday rolls around, I've kind of calmed down and the world's not ending, the sky's not falling, which it's not, but I'm still a little bit salty today. But just know, I love Nebraska. I love Husker football. I've always got their best interests at heart. All right, just know that will never change. I will say this, I'm tired of losing to basketball schools. UCLA, Indiana, schools that at least used to be good at basketball, I should say. And I made that comment this morning while I was eating breakfast with the family. You know what my 9-year-old daughter said? She said, how do you think other schools feel when they lose to a volleyball school if Nebraska beats them in football? And I was like, that hurt. That cut me. Maybe that's why I'm still salty. And I got bested verbally by my 9-year-old daughter. But I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're like me and you believe that a change needs to happen. Now, what exactly that may or may not look like, we're going to get into throughout the course of this show. But if you agree that something needs to change during the frickin' bye week, we can't keep banging our head against the wall and expecting different results, just banging our head over and over, smash that like button. All right. I feel like we have an inner conflict in our program between what Coach Rhule says he wants us to do versus what we actually try to do. And I use the word try just because we're not really good at anything just yet. All right. We get caught trying to be cute, in my opinion, rather than just trying to be good at something and win games. Sometimes we get caught up in being a little bit too fancy, but here's the deal. We, at the same time, have a lack of creativity on offense, in my humble opinion, which makes us basic to defend when defenses are trying to figure out how they're going to defend us, yet we don't have anything we're really good at. And at the same time, there's basic things we don't do that aren't fancy that would make it more complex for defenses and more difficult for defenses to defend us. So we try to be fancy, yet we're overly complex in certain things. And I'll get into kind of that in a minute. Yet we try to be cutesy instead of just getting really good at things and just doing whatever it takes to win football games. All right, and an example of this, bunch sets. Bunch sets are very common. They're not fancy, yet they're complex for a defense. People get in bunch sets all the time because in man-to-man, they're hard to deal with. And then you put guys in motion, and then you got the yo-yo motion. How many times have you seen a yo-yo motion where a guy goes in motion, turns around, and comes right back, play action pass into the flat, 4th and 1 first down, or 4th and goal touchdown? Perfect scenarios just like that. I've seen us do it a couple times this year. So that's not fancy, but it's complex for the defense. I hope that's kind of making sense. All right, at least on the bright side, we can't blame the refs for the loss on Saturday. Too soon? I understand. I apologize. All right, I'll point it out again. The failure to use Heinrich Haarberg a little bit more often this year put Nebraska in a position to try to win a game on Saturday with the game on the line with a quarterback that hadn't played much. And we're not using the skill set that he has in general when we have an offense that needs all the help they can get. We were 5-1 at one point. Now we're 5-4, wondering when we're going to make our first bowl game since 2016, which was the Music City Bowl versus Tennessee. All right, random side story. When I was a kid, I didn't know what USC stood for. I didn't know what UCLA stood for. And for the longest time, like from the time I was like 8 to 10, I thought UCLA stood for University of California, Latin America, not University of California, Los Angeles, but I digress. The Bruins came in better prepared, all right, and they came out with more energy than Nebraska did to start the game. They looked like the team that was fighting to go to a bowl game, not a 2-5 team that who knows how much hope they actually had at that point in time. Then their 8-minute drive to start the game, okay, seemed to take the juice out of the team and our crowd a little bit. Now, I will say this, don't blame the fans. I've seen a little bit of this here and there. Don't blame the fans. No fan base has been more loyal and more patient than Husker Nation for God knows how many freaking years. It doesn't matter if we're playing Michigan, Ohio State, Oklahoma, or Timbuktu. They're always there, and they're loud, and they're passionate. There's a reason that national shows and people with national shows hop on the Nebraska bandwagon anytime that they can. It gets them attention. Then they disappear if Nebraska doesn't keep winning. They just dip out, okay? Meanwhile, shows like mine are always here. I hope you know that. Rain or shine, it's always here, Husker fans. Back to the offense. The offense looks lost. Dylan Rhule looks like he's regressing, unfortunately. And frankly, the whole team kind of looks worse now than we did early on in the season. I went back and I was like, man, if you think about it, we've really only played 2 quarters, 1/2 of actual impressive football. The first half of the Colorado game. When I think of impressive football, and that's really it. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just being open and honest. It's what I do, ladies and gentlemen. Doesn't mean I'm right, but this is what you're going to get from me. My honest and open opinion for everybody to hear and react to. I went game by game. UTEP. My exact words after that game were, I felt like I should feel after this game was over. In other words, we won by a decent score. There was a couple things that I wasn't thrilled about, but it was the first game of the year. So I wasn't uber concerned, but I wasn't going to tell you I was uber impressed either. Colorado felt great afterwards, even though we were outscored 10-0 in the second half. Freaking great afterwards. Northern Iowa, we won by the appropriate score, but I didn't feel great about the game afterwards. All right, Illinois should have won. Frankly, we got out-coached in the second half and in overtime. Purdue, we sleptwalked through the first half, finally woke up in the second half and won 28-10. Rutgers, we won 14-7, scored 0 second half points and had 2 punch blocks that day. Ohio State played really well, should have won the game. Blind refs and 82 screen passes sunk us. UCLA, inexcusable. We should not have lost that game. No, I went through, I've been bombarded with texts and calls since the game. And so I tried to find things that represented a common thing among the people. Not necessarily looking for a certain message, just the things that I got sent to me and the things I saw on social media that were the most common. All right, so here are some of those things that I saw. At Redcast Rob on X, I don't know, man. How do we keep losing to these first-year coaches? Whatever is going on in this program during games needs to be questioned. There's no excuse for it. It's terrible coaching from the top down. Husker fans don't deserve this. Next up, Mike Schaefer, a program that has every possible resource and a fan base that is asked not just to come to games, but to donate to the AD and the collective, got out-coached and outplayed by a 2-5 UCLA team and is once again wandering in the November wilderness. Randy Essex, all right, I can't abandon the team. It's my home state. It's my alma mater. It's also not fun. Tired of talk, tired of, quotes, progress. Win a damn game when something is on the line. All of our remaining games are winnable and losable. Also, UCLA is better than its record. They have quality losses. I actually know Randy from the Omaha World Herald. He was a big dog, okay, at the World Herald. It's interesting because I still keep in touch with a lot of people from there, from Randy to Thad to Jake to Graham. Graham Archer was the whole reason I ended up going there. All right, Z, I haven't spoken with Z in a while, but he edited my videos for years. Jeff Bundy, who now runs Huskers Illustrated. Michael Severe had a show there for a couple of years. All right, he's got some fire takes. When you talk about the bunch and the motions and all that, that's actually something that he talked about on my Adam Carriker show on 93.7 The Ticket, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, noon to 1 p.m. Central Time, live on 93.7 The Ticket, hashtag cheap plug. He came on and he's the one who kind of talked about the bunches and the motions and all that good stuff. Evan Bland, his kid plays baseball with my kid in the summer. All right, but I digress. Let's get back to the point at hand. I just love forming relationships with people and keeping in touch with people over time. The next one, Rhule, the master of the podium, with the whole of Husker Nation demanding to understand why a loss happened at home to a 2-5 UCLA team over a Husker squad that looked completely unprepared and uninspired. What does he say? And he has a question mark there. Next up, Sean McNulty. In 2 seasons, Deion Sanders has his team beyond bowl eligible, and Matt Rhule has his team backpedaling like crazy. So with the Colorado thing, I did think that was an interesting point because you can mock Colorado all you want. They're already bowl eligible. In year 2 under Deion, they've improved a lot since the start of the year. They've improved. We don't seem to have. They may have the Heisman Trophy winner, Travis Hunter, and the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft in Shedeur Sanders, and may win they're in the Big 12 Conference Championship hunt, right in the thick of it. And if they win the Big 12, if they do, that means they're still very much in the college football playoff hunt as well. And they're also currently ranked 23rd last time I checked. I've not seen the updated AP poll. Okay. But that's what Deion's done in the same amount of time period as Rhule has been here at Nebraska. That's why I still talk about Colorado from time to time, even when the people tell me not to. Nope, I'm still very interested by them. And look at what Deion's done in Colorado. Now, the question is what's Deion doing, what he's doing at Colorado, is that sustainable over time? I have my serious doubts, topic for another day. but that's why I find them interesting. Rhule's model may be more sustainable over time, but we got to get to where Colorado's at first. Let's get back to the last couple of things I got here. It was observed by others that it appeared Rhule was calling plays in the second half. This person says fire Satterfield. I don't see Nebraska winning another game this season. That's their thoughts. I have not had it confirmed that he was calling plays in the second half. That was the part of that stuck out to me if it is true. All right, last one for now, at Skurs News. Here's where I'm at with Rhule. I think he is a great motivator. I think he gets players and fans to buy into the hype. That is part of being a good coach. Absolutely. All right, he has that. I don't think he is a great game manager. I don't think he hires quality assistants. At Temple and Baylor, the fight and drive he instilled in his players was enough to overcome bad to average teams in a weak conferences here in the Big Ten. It isn't enough, even versus middle-of-the-road teams. Fighting hard only gets a team so far. The rest is coaching, and he hasn't surrounded himself with top coaches. I think it's way too soon to give up on Rhule. I think a head coach needs 3 years minimum. Let the year play out, and let's give him this offseason to see what he does. Feel free to disagree with me. Again, these were some of the more common themes that I was seeing be put out there. All right, not looking for a specific message, just commonality to share with the people from the people. All right, this other guy I got next. All right, there's some dude named Adam Carriker. UCLA's pass defense had given up the most completions and allowed the most touchdown passes in the Big Ten this season. I believe they also allowed the most amount of pass yards as well. Why did we struggle to throw the ball so much? This was really a game that should have been well built for Dylan Rhule and our offense and passing offense to have success. And so that was one thing that stood out to me. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know me, if you watch my show, I don't say this stuff to be negative. If my blood wasn't already red, I would bleed Husker red anyways. Did you know that your blood is actually blue inside your body? So maybe the whole world, right, because everyone bleeds red, maybe the whole world is actually Husker fans and they just don't know it. It's science, ladies and gentlemen. All right, I want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to DPS Concrete Construction. They are your local retaining wall concrete experts and the like. If you need some work done along these lines, go to dpsconstruction.net. If this is your line of work, Jason Armstrong looks for quality workers. He's the owner. He's a great boss. Again, dpsconstruction.net. Tell him Adam sent you. Also, Allen Capital Group. They've done my family's finances for over a decade. I'll just be honest with you. I had a financial advisor before them. Let him go. Didn't trust him. Didn't think he was doing a good job. Hire them. I was a little skeptical just because of the previous experience I've had, but here we are over a decade later, and they're still with the Carrikers for a reason. Very knowledgeable, trustworthy, do a good job, puts your mind at ease and everything at peace. All right, they have offices in Omaha, Grand Island, and Ogallala. Check them out at their website, allencapgroup.com. That's ALLENCAP group.com. Allen Capital Group, next level solutions for next level needs. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, there was a point of the year where I was actually keeping track of how many good quarters of football the offense had played. The last time I talked about it on the show, we had played 24 quarters of football, so 6 games, and the offense had played 13 good quarters. I quit talking about it because as the season progressed, especially after the bye week, it dipped to not 50%. Good quarters of football being played by the offense. Then it dipped to 33%, and now it's even below that. So I don't say this stuff to be negative, all right? But there has to be a level of accountability. Plus, you can't fix what's wrong if you're not aware of it and you're not honest with yourself about it, no matter how hard or unfun that might be. So once again, I'm rooting for every player and every coach to be successful because that means that Nebraska is being successful. Remember, I've been in their shoes. I know what it's like to have big wins and tough losses. But if I have to choose between individual people or the program, nobody's bigger than the program. I'm choosing what's best for the program every single frickin' time. All right. Also, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong. I could be right. Obviously, I believe I'm right, but I usually come with proof. I come with proof, facts, and evidence. Let's light this candle. Final thoughts on the Bruins game and why it's an inexcusable loss. UCLA hadn't gotten pressure on opposing quarterbacks really all year at any sort of successful, consistent rate at all. They had 4 sacks and 7 TFLs versus Nebraska. All right, Nebraska actually won time of possession for the game, which is amazing because UCLA, after the first quarter, had the ball for 13 more minutes than Nebraska. The Huskers ran 52 plays in the second half to UCLA's 17, and that's what happens when it takes you almost 10 plays to score from inside the opponent's 10-yard line, by the way. And our last scoring drive was 4 minutes. All right, and we looked lost in what was supposed to be a hurry-up offense. Everyone knows what a 2-minute offense is. Hurry up, go, we got to score. The time is of the essence, whether it's before half, end of the game, whatever the case may be. 4-minute offense isn't as well known. That's when the offense is trying to run out the clock. We would literally do 2-minute drills in practice, and we'd practice against a 4-minute offense where they're trying to run out the clock and bleed the game out. It took us 4 minutes to score, okay, from our own 46-yard line in a 2-minute situation. We were not supposed to be in a 4-minute offense. Matt Rhule, I pointed this out in my gut reaction. All right, by the way, if you haven't done so yet, make sure you subscribe, ring that notification bell for this channel. Charlie McBride is going to be joining me for an in-depth interview this Tuesday. Hey, the Huskers are on a bye week, but the Carriker Chronicles is not. All right, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of the content we're putting out here on the Carriker Chronicles. But I talked about in my gut reaction, if you missed that, go check it out after the game. The Matt Rhule's lost his last 2 games versus a first-year head coach. And by the way, Deshaun Foster, he's not just a first-year head coach, he's a first-time head coach. And I love Deshaun Foster as a player. I've learned more things about him through people who know him. We have mutual acquaintances. There's no reason not to be a fan of him. But let's be real here. He was never even a coordinator before he was hired as their head coach. He was only a running backs coach. I mean that respectfully, not disrespectfully. So with all due respect, he was really only hired, okay, because Chip Kelly left UCLA in mid-February. The coaching cycle hire is well over by that point. He's a UCLA legend, and he's probably going to be a good coach there over time, but UCLA was in a tough spot, and that's why they ended up hiring. I do think he's going to drastically improve their recruiting over what Chip Kelly was doing. I do think people are growing in general, because I had a USA Today reporter on last week, UCLA insider James Williams, and he talked about how UCLA fans were already getting impatient with Deshaun Foster, and I was like, are you serious? Are you for real right now? I think people are growing way less patient with the process because in particular, in college football, it's way different with NIL and the transfer portal. Things are happening way faster now than they ever have. And it feels like it's happening at our expense sometimes when you think back to Indiana, UCLA, and the like. Okay, now we're wondering if we're even going to get results at all now. I guarantee that's starting to creep into fans' minds just a little bit. Okay, again, no brash decisions. Give them time, see what happens in the offseason, the rest of this season. Okay, on a side note, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying they screwed up the quarterback situation this year. I am not saying that because that's what they did last year, okay? I'm not saying they did that like they did with Jeff Sims. But what I'm saying, and I've been saying since last January, you never know what you're going to get with the true freshman quarterback. I love Dylan's heart. I love his work ethic. When I bring on Jamal Banks and I bring on Emmett Johnson on the show, they freaking love that guy. You hear nothing but great things. He didn't come in entitled in any way, shape, or form. He's uber talented, works hard. He's a true freshman, though. You never know what you're going to get with the true freshman. I love that he's taken off and running now, showing some toughness. Okay, I still love him, and his future is bright. But to me, it's kind of on the coaches for not developing him throughout the season. Okay, he's not playing as well now as he was earlier in the season. And again, to me, that's more on the coaches than it is anyone else. And frankly, for not having a better backup plan, whether it be schematics, personnel, or otherwise, if he were to struggle this season, okay, and or a way to help his development in general, or just the offense as an overall whole. I talked about last spring, you never know what you're going to get with a true freshman, as talented as he is. Then he goes out in the spring game, dropping dimes, and everyone's acting like I'm crazy. And I'm like, does anyone else remember Matt Rhule said he wanted this to be like a shootout, or he wanted to throw the ball a ton? And then he goes out and he plays well to start the year. To be clear, still a big fan. But people kind of looked at me like I was crazy. The fact of the matter is, you never know what you're going to get from a young guy like that. He has started and played more quarters and more football than any other true freshman quarterback in the country this year. So they've asked a lot of him. Is that completely fair? That's why I'm like, they needed to have a plan in place in case he started to struggle, or at least help the offense out in some way, shape, or form, or at least make sure he keeps developing and improving. And there's been times this year, I think back to the Illinois game, I think back to certain games this year, the defense was struggling. The special teams was the special teams. We couldn't run the ball. It was kind of all on the 19-year-old, and that was kind of crazy to me. Now, I will say this, and I'm not saying he should start, because Dylan's our starter. Okay. Even though it is not ASA 7 or ASA 8, it's ASA 9 that Heinrich Haarberg is just sitting there, and his skills aren't being used in some way, shape, or form to help this offense. I will point out, Haarberg did look to throw the ball downfield more when he was in on Saturday. Even when they do put Haarberg in, okay, in certain situations, I feel like it's predictable. I feel like it's obvious. It's like they're putting him in the game out of obligation, I feel sometimes, if that makes sense, rather than actually putting time in to figure out how to maximize what he can do. And this offense needs all the help it can get. That's no secret. As mentioned before, Nebraska fans deserve better. We have facilities, we have resources, and we have plenty of money to be successful here at Nebraska. To be clear, the defense isn't exactly unscathed in this either. UCLA's offense was 127th ranked scoring offense in the country. Again, they were dead last in America, 133rd in America in rushing offense. And yes, I did confirm Saturday was their first 100-yard rushing performance of the entire season. They rushed for 139 yards versus our defense on Saturday. Now, here's the deal. Changes need to happen. All right, what does that look like? Is that firing coaches? Matt Rhule said he doesn't fire coaches or do things like that until the end of the season. Let's just go around kind of the offense. The wide receivers are not getting open and they're not blocking. You look at the running backs. Okay, and again, I look at the quarterbacks. I love Dylan. He seems to have regressed, unfortunately, to this point in the season. Hopefully, he starts to progress in the appropriate direction the rest of the season. You look at the running backs. Much love to Dante Dowdell, but I believe Emmett Johnson is the best running back. That's just my personal opinion. Okay, he keeps getting overlooked. Maybe it's because he only had one scholarship coming out of high school, which he told me on this show. It's easier to overlook a guy like that. But Dante is a young, talented player with a bright future. He's 6'2", 225 pounds, but he doesn't run like a big back behind his pads often enough. We call it bringing your big boy pads. I don't see it often enough. It's almost like he wants to be a different style of back than he kind of actually is, at least more than I would like to see. And much love, but we need our running backs coach to get more out of our running backs consistently. We have 4 talented running backs. We got to be able to get more out of them. But let's be real, skill positions do not matter if we don't block up front. I'm not sure why we've gone backwards run blocking wise. And I remember last spring, Matt Rhule saying, I know we can run. I want to throw the ball going into the spring game. Like that was his big point. Did maybe they take it a little bit too much for granted and not pay enough attention to run blocking? And I had a conversation with the Nebraska legend in the end zone as the offensive line was warming up before the game. I said, why do you think they're not performing better as a whole, but at least in the run blocking? He said, it's an attitude. It's a monster mentality. And then when things start to not go great, they got to have that guy that steps up and galvanizes everybody, holds everybody accountable, but galvanizes everybody. They just kind of start looking around, and they don't have that right now. And at the most key moments this year, we haven't actually protected the quarterback that well either. Ironically, the one offensive position that has played well, at least somewhat consistently, is the tight end position. Maybe it's more Thomas Fidone than anything else, but that's the position that Marcus Satterfield coaches, just FYI. Changes need to happen during the bye week. That's my adamant position. Now, other than actual coaching changes, I will say this. Every coach needs to know they're coaching for their job, and this next month, there's a crazy evaluation period. That's what I believe anyways. I could be wrong. Coaching's a hard profession. And expectations are high when you're getting paid $1.2 million a year to call plays. I'll put it to you like this. Nobody feels sorry for the local plumber if he gets let go because he can't fix the pipes. All right, something's got to change. Glenn Thomas, who's our co-offensive coordinator, but never calls plays, even though he has 10 years of offensive coordinator experience, should try calling plays. That's the one thing I'm like, something's got to change. Why don't we try that? You don't have to fire anybody. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just at least try that. Or Matt Rhule can call plays. Okay? Then there's no identity conflict, if he's calling plays anyways. All right, put Harburg, another option, just another option. Put Harburg in more and run more option. Literally, another option is the option. Not even just situationally, though. Okay? We got to find a way to win. We just do. We got to figure out the next month, and then we can figure out the future after that. Not just situationally anymore. I'm not talking about that. Dylan still starts, but this now becomes more of our offense, at least for the next month. I do wonder how Dylan might react to that because I genuinely don't know, but I'm open to any other ideas as well. I do remember Malachi Coleman blocked pretty well last year when he was at wide receiver, and he could play every game the rest of the year without burning his red shirt. All right, and I actually was sent 2 more screenshots via text before I came on air here, and we're gonna put those up on the screen. All right, at Huskers Talk, 1st and goal from the 10-yard line. First play was a run for 5 yards and 3 straight passes. At Huskers game day, after 21 games at Nebraska, Matt Rhule is 10-11 overall, 5-10 in the Big Ten conference play as a head coach in college football. He's 57-54. Those are just facts and stats, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully they go more in the positive direction, but for right now, 2 plus 2 equals 4, no matter how badly someone else might want it to equal 5. I was going to do the college football weekend recap in 1 minute, but the show's getting a little bit lengthy. I will do that at another time. Between now and Tuesday's show, get you some Carriker Chronicles merchandise. Go to carrikerchronicles.com. It is where all your Husker sports hopes and dreams will come true. Again, we have phenomenal merchandise there. I say with all humility in the world. Here are my questions for you fine folks at home. Let me know your answers in the comments below. Number 1. What's the biggest change that needs to be made during the bye week? Number 2, will any changes actually be made? Just simply say yes or no. And number 3, are you checking out on Husker football the rest of this year? Don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be like those people with national shows. And I'm not slamming them. I don't know. Would I do the same thing? I don't know. I'm a Husker diehard. But don't be like those folks with national shows that just come and go based on whether Nebraska wins or loses. All right, until next time, don't bandwagon. Go Big Red, and always remember to throw the ball.